ran away with the ballots.
Those members who were telling us at that time that they were revolting the choice of speakership for Professor Michael Quay were telling us that if we don't do what they want, they will go in there and vote against him. And during the setting, they would allow leadership to come close.
Right.
But other members will not come close. So we were closer and we saw exactly what was happening. During the sorting, things were happening. And something had to be done. And that thing was done. At the end of the day, that was around 4 a.m.
Right. I was in Parliament then.
And the hula baloo that resulted from all this voting process. And then, considering the time at the time, we had finished all this around 4 a.m. And you know the procedure of Parliament.
Right.
The new Parliament must sit. We must elect a clerk, elect a speaker and his deputies. They have to swear in members of Parliament. Sometimes, we don't even go home to sleep.
Yeah.
We march straight from there to Independence Square. And that is specifically in our 1992 Constitution because we cannot create a vacuum that could cause any coup d'etat when there's no, executive occupation of the seat. And so at the time, leaders there were like 4 a.m. If we have to line up every member of Parliament, 275, to cast a vote again and count and declare a speaker, we'll go into the next day and that vacuum will be created. So there was no declaration of results for speakership. That you can say Adwoa Safo's own was the one that was given to Babing and Speaker Babing, and that is why Speaker Babing. There was no. They should tell me if they want declaration. There was a declaration, and I voted for Okwe against Okwe. Okwe Nyasing.
I remember I spoke to.
So they made it was a consensus. We agreed amongst ourselves, both sides. So that given the circumstances, let's give.
Babing was not elected.
You know it.
Yeah, I remember I spoke to Samuel Atachan who said that per the NDC's calculation, they had come with figures that they had won by more than 5 votes from MPs. Meaning some MPs, more than one, voted for Speaker Babing to become Speaker of Parliament. And the claim is that you may have been one of those who voted against the president's choice.
At the time, Elton, we had a national security minister, right? We had security agencies in this country. Right?
Yes.
They should come tell us how many yes and how many no's that even out of the ones that were destroyed, they were able to capture. Was it more? It was, I'm telling you on authority, it was more than 2. It was more than 3. It was more than 5.
And it was a secret ballot. You are a lawyer, and lawyers usually when you go to court and there's a criminal case, you deal with motive.
Yeah.
So those who conclude that you may have been one of them makes the point.
Because
if I can just find and then create this scenario and then ask whether it fits the narrative of people who think that you may have voted for Alban Babi. They say that you contested the primaries with the son of the speaker. The son of the speaker at the time was unemployed. In fact, he was Ghana's ambassador to India. He was doing well. Then the speaker son came to contest the primaries with you. The speaker is in Parliament. The leaders help him to execute his duties as speaker. You happen to be one of them. Exactly. And so in terms of maintaining normalcy in the House, you will play a key role in that direction. Some say that the speaker could not speak to his son to say that the person you are going to contest, one of the leaders who is helping him to run the House, it didn't happen. And then the election came on. We heard comments that came from Esla and the fact that you had to virtually, you did everything you could to win it. Now you've won it. You have been asked to go and vote for the speaker whose son wanted you to lose your job. And so the motive could be clear that you may have been one of them.
No, it is the easiest conclusion to arrive at. It is the easiest conclusion anybody will arrive at because of our previous contest. But I want to say and place on record that I was part of people, the members of Parliament that brought him for the first time. So that at that time, I didn't find the need to oust him. I did. And that wasn't the first time his son had contested me in that seat, on that seat. It wasn't it wasn't the 2018 contest.
Yeah.
That wasn't the first time that I contested Junior. So whether he spoke to his son or not, and whether that influenced me or not, that's what I've said to you. That at the time we were working with the president. He had told us point blank, whip everybody, we're going this direction. If I didn't want to do it, I won't appear in parliament, and nobody could have forced me. I was there, I was cooperating, and I made sure that I voted. And you can call Honorable Chairman Sambusu and ask him. I was stuck in traffic. And I said, I'm stuck in traffic. So he called his motorcade. I said, may dispatch rider Ababe for you. Why go through all that stress if I'm going to vote no when I could abstain? So it's neither here nor there. But the misrepresentation out there, the lies out there to paint Adwoa Safo black, that indeed there was a counting process, and then there was a discovery that my vote and another vote. When you go to other quarters, they say it was only my vote that brought Speaker Bagman. You go to other quarters, it was me and another person. And they were tagging another MP, and they were doing all sorts of things in his constituency just to oust him. Why is it that we don't take our time to go into the parliamentary hazards and find out what happened on that day? And you were there in Parliament.
Right.
There was no such declaration.
In fact, there wasn't. There wasn't
any
no declaration. Yeah.
There was a consensus building. Both sides agreed. Young farmer Speaker Bagman, and that is how Right Honourable Speaker is still Speaker and has continued. How is that Adwoa Safo's doing?
So you think if Professor Michael Rowe was changed, perhaps Bagman wouldn't have been Speaker of Parliament for the 8th time, for the 8th Parliament?
I think that even as a member of Parliament, when you go into your constituencies and they're telling you, Honourable, we need a pill, and you don't listen, what happens? They'll oust you. Yeah, so we're dealing with a group, a parliamentary caucus, a parliamentary group, and they were telling us, okay, this is we've tried it, but let's try another. And you know, it had a lot of dynamics that they were and logic that came out of their arguments that made a lot of sense to me, Adwoa Safo, because we had a very tight Parliament,
right.
And they were thinking that somebody very liberal, somebody out of the parliamentary whole setting, who
could take over.
Who could take over, could soften the minority, could, maneuver everything. But at the end of the day, the choice was that for the president. And he made us that aware that this is how we should go. How is that Adwoa Safo's problem when we go and it doesn't go the way we want to go? We wanted it to go. How is that my problem? When our members who were going to vote warned us, they warned us. The writings were clear on the walls for us to read.
And clearly, leadership did not act on this warning. And it fits into the committee that was set up in the Ashanti region after the last election, chaired by Chairman Sabonso. Their conclusion, which is now a matter of public record, points to the fact that Akufo-Addo was not amenable to advice or suggestions, and that whenever he took a decision, he didn't change it. And a lot of people they spoke to said that it didn't help, and was one of the reasons why the party lost the 2024 election. You worked with the president closely. Did you see that kind of traits in him, that he was somebody who was not amenable to suggestions and advice?
I think that the first term was good. Ghanaians had a lot of expectations, and there was that, eagerness and that preparedness to meet that expectation of Ghanaians. But I think that moving into our second term, I would support exactly what Honourable Chairman Sabonso was saying. It was as if we weren't hearing. It was as if we didn't care. It was as if we were on our jolly ride. Chiefs were complaining. Pastors were complaining. Party people were complaining. The youth. Everything that we were doing, it was as if there was no election ahead of us. Not that governance is about thinking about the next election. It's about governance. But you should know that your track record is what is going to secure you your next term.
Right.
So you have to listen. At the time, I think that at a point, we were not listening.
Is it a normal second term syndrome that almost every party, face?
Maybe. And